So yes, guys, it is that time of the year again. Monterey Bay Football Club is almost back. This Wednesday, the lads travel to Southwest University Park to take on El Paso Locomotive FC. And all your coverage of the match will be available here on M.B.F.C Discussion, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, all the places, all the social media sites. This will be the first match of the 2024 campaign for the Union as we look to finally break through and achieve their first ever playoff berth. But without further ado, let's get into some stats and facts and my thoughts ahead of the Wednesday night fixture. So kind of going into El Paso and what they went through last season, this offseason, what it's looked like for them. El Paso are coming off of a 2023 season in which they made the playoffs under first-year gaffer Brian Clairhout, achieving the 7th seed. They scored 41 goals while allowing 51 and had a minus 10 goal differential. Also, ironically, they were the only Western Conference side that made the playoffs with a negative goal differential. In 7th place at that, of course. It looked great early on for El Paso this season. They were first in the Western Conference for a while, of course. They used the club's longest ever unbeaten streak of 12 games, and within that was 8 games, an 8-game win streak as well. But it also fell apart towards the end of the season at one point, dipping below the playoff line because M.B.F.C and Oakland Roots were also making a late surge for the playoffs. But then M.B.F.C and Oakland also found a rotten patch of form. El Paso took full advantage, and in the end were able to clinch playoffs, as I previously mentioned. The run of form, which was that 12-game unbeaten run, ultimately was the difference for them in the end, and they're just able to kind of cling on at the end. And saying that is an understatement because they were below the playoff line with about 5 games to go, especially because we, Monterey Bay FC, came into El Paso and got a huge 3 points at Southwest University Park. El Paso over the offseason, they saw some Locomotive legends like center back Mark Navarro go. He was a mainstay on El Paso's back line. Luis Solniak, who is El Paso's all-time leading goal scorer with 36 goals in all comps, he left for San Antonio FC. Aaron Gomez, who is the club's all-time leading goal scorer with 34 goals in all comps, plus being the club's all-time leader in minutes, played at 9,253, also departed the club and is now with Union Omaha. Among other key names who left Los Locos over the offseason are center back Eric McHugh, goalkeeper Benny Diaz, who was the starting goalkeeper from last season. One of the better attacking midfielders that they had on the roster, Denis Kostishin. He left for the Ukrainian League again, and he scored 4 goals and had 4 assists in 34 matches played in the USL last season. And also forward Emmanuel Sinupe left the club as well. So in turn, Brian Clairhout brought in a plethora of signings. The marquee signings this offseason, include El Paso Pittsburgh goalkeeper Jamali Waite. He comes in to El Paso from the Pittsburgh Riverhounds. Waite was a huge part of the defense for Pittsburgh that conceded the least amount of goals in the USL Championship. He started 27 matches and kept 10 clean sheets. They also bring in forward Tumi Moshibane, who played 34 matches and scored 8 goals while tallying 5 assists for former USL Championship side San Diego Loyal FC. They also bring in forward Joaquin Rivas, who scored 10 goals and recorded 3 assists for the Miami FC. And then, of course, they also bring in forward Amando Moreno from El Paso's USL Championship rival, Mexico United, where he played 34 matches last season, scoring 10 and tallying 5 assists. Among other names that joined El Paso over the offseason, center back Brandon Craig from MLS Next Pro side Philadelphia Union 2 on loan. Center mid, Paulo Aquinote from the Miami FC, for Justin Dillon from San Antonio FC, Center back Tony Alfaro from LA Galaxy has experience in MLS and USL Championship and Liga MX, I'm fairly certain. And then fullback Lucas Stoffer from Las Vegas Lights. So they really added a lot of solid additions this offseason. El Paso did. Notable returning players for El Paso as well are fullback Petar Petrovic, center mid Eric Calvillo, who has been a mainstay in the middle of the park, along with center mid Liam Rose, who is also a mainstay in that midfield for El Paso. Other returning players of note is center back in club legend Yuma, who is second all-time in minutes played for El Paso with 8,825. Fullback Eder Borelli, attacking midfielder Ricardo Zacarias, and mainstay center back from last season, Noah Dollenmeyer, on a permanent contract from LAFC 2. So really for El Paso, they cut a lot of the loose fat from last season in this offseason. Of course, letting go of the club legends like Luis Silniak, Mark Navarro. But, with the players they brought in, as I mentioned, it's no wonder why me and other USL pundits, USL show, the USL Way, which is the podcast I'm part of, it's no wonder why we have El Paso getting back to the El Paso of old under Claire Hout in his second year of reign as manager. El Paso also has started their season already as well, of course, having played at the weekend at home on Saturday against Hartford Athletic, in which they fell 1-0. Romario Williams was taken down 13 minutes into the match and slotted home from the spot to put Hartford up 1-0 in the 14th minute, an advantage, of course, that Hartford did not relinquish. The best chance for El Paso came on the stroke of half-time in stoppage time, where Tony Alfaro saw his header from a corner go off the top of the crossbar. El Paso also put the ball in the back of the net in the 50th minute via Justin Dillon, but Amando Moreno, who supplied the ball to Dillon, was ultimately offsides. El Paso played well, I'd say, though. They had 64% of the possession, 7 corners, more shots with 15 shots to Hartford's 9 shots, and almost equal in the shots on goal with 3 shots on goal to Hartford's 4. A little less efficient in terms of shots on goal, but El Paso also created the best expected goals out of all the teams played at the weekend in the USL Championship in all competitions. They would go into this 3-3-4 attacking shape, but Hartford also countered that by dropping their center mids deep to make sure they always had 5 at the back to deal with that top 4. And I think this is something that could potentially bode well for us defensively, because most likely I think we're going to come out in a 3-4-3, which I'll also get onto the predicted starting 11 soon. But since we're going to come out in a 3-4-3, you could see Baca and Fair drop really deep, similar to how Hartford did against El Paso, and really just gum everything up in the box. So those double pivots in the midfield, Baca and Fair, I think are going to be pretty important, and it could be a similar dynamic to how Hartford countered the top 4 line of El Paso. Moving on to the Union, I won't be going over the ingoings and outgoings, the players who stayed put, etc. Because if you follow the page on Instagram, you know who has stayed, you know who has come in, and who has gone out, of course. Although I will briefly mention, I think we're really going to miss Sam Guido, going to miss Christian Vileski a lot, in which I'll also touch on in a second. There's a reason why I bring them up. But I feel, for us, this match, it's a bit of a tough proposition. The style of play El Paso have is possession-oriented, and the players they brought in pose, I think, a really tough task ahead, because our style of play is route one, but also going for possession sometimes, in which also we've never been great in possession, of course. So El Paso are going to see a lot of the ball, and I feel we could get dominated this match, since we're away from home, meaning the chances on the break will be there at times, I think. And this is something this is the reason why I brought up Galito and Vileski. I think we're really going to miss them on the break. The fact our chances will come on the break, we're missing their quality in transition. They truly played some champagne football, I think, in transition. And I don't think that's a claim without the stretch of imagination. I think they were so good on the break, and everything just flowed on the counter with them. Right, we're gonna miss them a lot, I think, in that aspect. Moving on to our injury report for tomorrow, Traeger is probable, so he most likely will be available. He has a bit of a hamstring issue, but again, probable, listed as probable. Archimed is also listed as probable with an ankle issue. Boone, though, is out with an ankle injury that he suffered in the final preseason match against Sacramento. And then Javi Nalati, is out with a groin issue. He hasn't played at all in the preseason, still working his way back. So, now moving forward, I will give you my predicted 11 as shown here, which is a 3-4-3 formation at the back. I have Siaha in goal, as he played more minutes in the preseason down the stretch than Herrera, and I've gone for a back three with Lara, Guzman, and Green. I've gone for a midfield four with double pivots in the middle of the park with Fair and Baca, with Grant Robinson flanking Fair on the left and Maury Donor flanking Baca on the right. I've then gone for a top three of Wilmer Martinez, who will slot in, I think, pretty nicely for Chase Boone on the left wing, Alex Dixon on the right wing, and then Tristan Traeger through the middle up top. I could have gone for Archimed up top, but I like the prospects of Archimed off the bench in maybe about the 50th, 60th minute, because also if Traeger's probable and has a hamstring issue, that's probably about when he'll be taken off as well. And I think Traeger is more of a true number 9. So I'll just taking a look at prior history. Monterey Bay has the advantage, actually, in the short history of games played against one another, with a 2-1-1 record all-time against El Paso, having drawn 0-0 at home last season, and then winning a crucial road match in the reverse fixture at Southwest University Park 2-1 en route to a late playoff push, which, of course, ultimately fell short. The one win El Paso had came in M.B.F.C's inaugural season, which was a 5-0 thumping at Southwest University Park. However, it was also only the Union's 5th ever match as a franchise in which they had multiple injuries, and they were also shown a red card that match. So, obviously, I'd say let them off the hook there in that sense. So now on to my predictions for the Wednesday night matinee. Personally, going on the road with a restructured front line, I feel potentially goals will be a bit tough to come by, and against a possession-based El Paso side, so I think I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw here. It's not what my head tells me; it's what my heart tells me, really. Although I do think if we were to take all 3 points, it's a via smash and grab. I don't see any other way. But I am officially locked in at a 1-1, and I'd certainly take a point going back home to Cardinale from the home opener on March 16th. So there you go, guys. There is my Monterey Bay at El Paso Locomotive match preview. If you enjoyed the video, do hit the thumbs up. And for all your Monterey Bay content, make sure to subscribe, and also follow on Instagram and Twitter as well. Same handle as YouTube. And I will be back the day after on Thursday, after the Wednesday match, of course, with the match review of the game on Wednesday. Enjoy the game tomorrow, everyone, and ciao, ciao.